Welcome back to another video from TrainingRite.com. Today I'll be showing you as how to create user-defined functions in VBScript. In VBScript, there are basically two types of functions. There is something called a system function, and then there is something called a user-defined function. System functions, as you know, in our previous videos, I have shown you some of the system functions like input box, message box, and then there are some other functions like how to calculate your date, what is the time now, and if you're calculating if you're getting a date, and then if you want to know what the date is going to be, like 30 days from now or 90 days from now, or from X number of days from now, you would be able to do all that. That's basically a part of using your system-defined functions. Now the topic is the user-defined function. So I'm going to show you how to do that in VBScript by getting into QTP. I'm going to start my QTP. When we create these user-defined functions, there's a need for us to reuse some of the functionality which we put in this function. So the basic need for writing a function is we could go ahead and then call those functions and then keep reusing that function. So let's get started, see how we do that. So I'm going to be creating a new kind of like a test case in here, but I'm not really testing anything right now, so I'm just showing you how to write functions. So let me just save this test as here is my test, and I'm going to call this as demo of user defined functions. All right, so it's an empty area here. I just saved it so that I can send you the code. All right, let's think about what we want to create it as a function. Continuing with my demos in the past, we were working on how to calculate your income, and that income could be part of your income as well as your spouse income. Today we're going to introduce ourselves to what is called these user-defined functions. So let me get started. So what we have here is let us declare a variable. So my variable is going to be dim. We said my salary, right? And let's say this time my salary is going to be per hour, right? My salary per hour, right? The next thing which I'm going to declare is another variable called spouse salary per hour. Okay, so here are my two variables. Now let's say if I want to calculate the total of my salary and my spouse salary per hour, I probably need a third variable so that I could put the total in there. So my third variable is together anything we make, right? All right, now let's see what is going to be the total of that. So I'm going to be saying that together we make is going to be the sum of my salary per hour plus my spouse salary per hour, right? Now that is the formula, right? I mean that looks like spouse salary per hour, that is per hour. Okay, now this is the formula. I mean, this is how we would do it in our head, I guess, right? But let's assume some salary we make. So my salary per hour is going to be, just come up with a number, just throwing like, let's say $50 an hour. All right, okay. Spouse salary per hour, let's again come up with a number. Let's say it is going to be, let's say she is making more than me, so like $60 an hour. Okay, now so 50 and 60, $110 per hour. And if we just want to see if that's the case, how would we do that? From our previous videos, we recall that I could use something called either a message box function, which will spit out and tell me that in the form of a box, it will tell me that, okay, that's going to be my salary, or I could be using print as a function. So let's say if I use print, and I want to say that together, um, our hourly salary is okay. Now, no, remember that concatenation operator that is going to, because this is some text, right? And now we want to see how much we make. So that is sitting in this variable. Together we make, so that's what we got to do. Okay, if I run it, what is it going to do? It has to print together our hourly salary is, and whatever is the value which is sitting in this variable, right, which is the sum of this, and that has to spit it out. So no problem, we run it. Let's see if it does that. And here it is, $110, because 50 and 60 is $110. Okay, so far so good. Now, let's say I want something like, I want to know what is my salary per day. So how would I do it? Pretty much take the same, right? I copy that, Control C, and I come here, Control V, and times in a day, on an average, there are 8 hours. So together our daily salary, right? Daily salary is this. So run that, 110 times 8 is 880, so that's what it is. Okay, so what's new here? There's nothing new. We have not talked anything about functions yet. So let us see how we could introduce functions in here. Let's say if I want to write a user-defined function. The way I write a user-defined function is I use the word function, and then I give the name of the function. The name of the function is, let's say, calculate income. Right? Okay, calculate income. Now, if I do that, and if I take these two lines from here, right, and if I cut them, Control X, and I come in here and paste them, Control V, right? So I had put those two lines in here inside this function, right? And now I have to call this function. The way I'm going to call this function is I'm going to come up here and give the name of the function. What was the name of the function? The name of the function is calculate income. So I'm going to highlight that, do a Control C, come here, do a Control V, and I would say, just so that we know that this value is coming from a function, so I'm just going to say print, and I will say function is calculating this value, right? Which function? I would just say this calculate income function, right? So calculate income function. That way, I mean, this is not necessarily going to be the part of our real life that we will put this, but this is for our learning, so that we know that it is coming from here. It is coming from this function. First of all, let's see if this function gets executed, meaning that are there any errors or anything, you know. So let's see how it is done. So I run that, hit OK, and lo and behold, what we see here is we have calculate income function is calculating this value. That means that, okay, this function is calculating that, and together our hourly salary is that, together our daily salary is that. Now let's say if I want to have, let's say, a monthly salary, so I could or rather a weekly salary. I do a Control C, and on an average we have what? In a week we have 40 hours. So I could say that, okay, this is my weekly salary. Likewise, if I have to say what is my monthly salary, and in a month on an average we have like 4 weeks, so I guess about like 160 working hours, give and take a few. right? So that's our monthly salary. Likewise, we could go ahead and then do what is called the annual salary. So what we have seen here, annual salary is what, 2,000 hours we work in a year, at least in America. So that's the average number of hours we work in a year. So that's so this is my income calculator. So what we have done is we wrote a function. This is called a user-defined function. We wrote a function, and what is this function doing? This function is calculating whatever I intend to calculate, which is my hourly salary, daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly annual salary or yearly salary, right? Let's see if it gets executed without any errors. And as you see here, all is good. So we have 110, 880, whatever, right, is our income. So 220,000, that's a healthy number, right? That's a good number if that's what you're making. Now, how about if this, we have hard-coded this, right? In my previous example, I've shown you if you need to capture this from the user, right? So what would you do? What would you do? You just, I'm going to replace this. I'm just going to comment this part. I comment that. And comment is putting a single quote. So I'm going to comment that and try and get the value from my, what? From my input box. So the way I'm going to do that is my salary per hour is going to get the value from an input box. So input box. So input box is a function, right? So when you see here input box, you have what? That. So now you might be wondering, what is that? Basically what it is input box is a system defined function. Microsoft VBScript guys who had created the language, they have also written a function like that. They would have said function input box, right? And that's how they have to, and what did they put inside it, right? They know what did they put. That's the source code which they put inside the input box. We don't have access to that. We are not interested in that. But they are saying that this input box, and after you see this parentheses, after you see this bracket begin, they are telling us to enter this. That means that what are we trying to get out of this? We are saying that okay, and a function can take what is called parameters. So this prompt is a parameter, meaning that you have to pass something to that function, right? So you for that function to work. So in our case, we do not have anything like that. So that's what we will be learning in next few minutes, is how to create a function which can take parameters or input values into that function. So right now I'm just showing you how the system function works in VB. So the system function called input box needs what is called prompt. Prompt is when the box comes up, it should say something, right? Like what am I entering in there? Am I asking the user to enter bananas, or am I asking the user to enter their salary per hour? So I can say here, please enter your salary per hour, right? So that's what I am prompting them, right? Okay, I'm not interested in the rest of these, but just in case, because it says optional, right? So let me just do a comma, and then as you see, when I did a comma, this gets highlighted, meaning that now whatever I type will be used as the title of that input box. Now, what is the title of the input box? I'll show it to you right now. And I could just say the title is income calculator, let's say. That's okay, and I close that. So basically what happened here, we are asking them to enter an input box. Inside the input box, their salary per hour. I have to do the same for the second one. Let's say I'm too excited, I don't do things like that, and I forget. So let's see how system responds to things like that. Now, by the way, whenever you are working on writing a script, it is always better if you just save all. So I just hit a save all, just in case if the QTP crashes, then whatever you have typed, everything will be lost. So it is always better that you save it. So I just saved that. Now let us run, And this is going to give us a weird results. We know why, right? Because it is expecting you to enter my salary, which you are trying to gather from the input box. But how about the spouse salary? We have commented that, right? So let us see how it is going to behave, what kind of errors it is going to give us, if any, whether that is going to be a compilation error or whether it is going to be a logical error. And recall that I already discussed in my previous videos about the difference between a logical error and a compilation error. So let's go take a look into that. Run that. Now, it is asking me, please enter your salary per hour. And notice this income calculator, that is the title. And if you see here in the input box, parenthesis begin, we gave this and we gave that. So income calculator is being used as the title up here, right? Do we need a title? No, it's an optional. You can just not give the title and then nothing would show up here, right? That's fine. Okay, please enter your salary per hour. Let's say my salary per hour again is $50. So I hit OK. Now let's see what happens. What did it do now? It says that together hourly salary is 50. So it did compile. Everything is working fine. So what did it took as the spouse salary per hour? I guess it took 0, right? It took 0. Now if you say that, oh, how can I assure myself that it took it as 0? Well, let us prove it to ourselves. So how would you do that? For that, you would put a breakpoint here. So let us put a breakpoint here. And after you put a breakpoint, what are we interested in? We are interested in finding out the value of this one, right? So I'm going to highlight that. And in my debug, I will say that add to watch, right? Again, recall all this from my previous videos. I have explained you, and I have now it basically you have to practice, and these things would happen. Okay, now let's run it and let's see how it behaves. So I'm gonna run it, and this time again salary is going to be 50, and I hit OK. Now it came here and it stopped here, right? It stopped here. Why did it stop here? It stopped because I have a breakpoint. Now let us see the value of the spouse salary per hour. Right now it says empty. Now if I need to go to the next one, this line will get executed at that time, and I could go to the next one. And if this is in the watch, let's see in the variables and in the watch, right? So notice that it is saying as empty. In order to go to the next line, what do I do? Again, recall from my previous video, I told you that in order to step in, we have to do F11. So if you're not sure about that, it tells you here, step into F11. So I'm gonna do an F11, and when I do an F11, it went to the next one. So basically, the value is empty. If the value is empty, it is treated as 0. So now, as I do F11 again, from here it came inside the calculate income, and it is doing the first line, then it does the second line, it does the third line, fourth line, fifth line, and end of the function. And the script has ended. Now let us go and then take a look into the output, which is here, and it did execute it as 5400 and all that. All right. Okay. Very good. Okay. So far so good. So what we have learned now is a couple of things. First of all, we looked into my writing this small program where I started with writing the declaring of the variables. I declared 3 variables. Then I added them. I added this and that got into that together we make. Then we had a print statement. Then we thought, okay, we will introduce ourselves to what is called function. So I created a function, and in the function, I just put this thing in there. Together we make hourly is that and that and that and that. And then we went into a daily, weekly, monthly, annual, and all that. Okay, so far so good. Let me complete this by taking the spouse salary too. So I'm gonna do just copy, Control C, and then come here, Control V, and this is spouse salary per hour, right? So I'm just gonna replace this by the word spouse salary per hour, and here please enter your spouse salary per hour. Okay, now you will see this misbehaving a little bit, because again we talked about this, because something which is coming out of the input box is a string, so it is going to concatenate that strings, right? So quickly see how it works, and then we're going to fix that. So come in here, let's say salary here, please enter the salary per hour is $50, and please enter the spouse salary per hour, $50, and you will be very happy looking at this, because our hourly salary is 50/50, and then it is going to calculate, and then your annual salary would run into like millions of dollars, I guess, which is not the expected results, right? So what we got to do, there is something wrong in our own script here, the way we have written the script. So let's say if we were testing an application, and then we cannot just quickly jump and then say that, hey, there is an error in your application, because their application, poor developers might have created their application by putting in a lot of sweat into it and time into it, and then you are quickly jumping and saying that they have a wrong application. So it's not that your script, because it did not give you an error, you cannot just say that it's wrong on somebody else's part, because we are wrong here. So how are we going to fix that? We have to convert that into either an integer or into a double. So I could do CDBL and surround that with the parenthesis. So what is that CDBL? CDBL again is a built-in VBScript function, system function. All right. So what does that do? Basically, it takes what is called one argument, and it converts that into double. Now, let me quickly show you something here. If I sit on this, if I click my mouse on that and do an F1, right? What it does is it gives you all the help in the world as far as VBScript is concerned. So this is VBScripting help, and see here it points you to CDBL function. It is telling you how CDBL works. So if let's say if you have to write something about CDBL, how to convert that. So this is the argument. You put it in here and it gets converted, and they're putting into another variable. So these are the examples here. So likewise, you could go here and then look into the example of anything. Let's say date, right? So I will go, and so they're asking, okay, in date there are many things. There is a date and time constant. There's a date function. So let us take a look into the date function and see what it does. So when you use date, right? When you use date, it is going to give you, your date. So that we are putting it in the. Now, how does it look? We can quickly try it out. So we can say print date. Let's take a look into now function. So print now. It will give you the now function, hour function, minute function, month function. All of these things are here. Weekday function. If you want to find out, like, how to do the weekday function, there are some examples here, right? They show it to you like weekday, and if you put some, let's say the day you were born, right? Your date of birth. If you put your date of birth into a variable, and then use the weekday as a built-in function of VBScript, and put that my date into that, it will give you my weekday, like what day of the week you were born, like what was that, Friday or Saturday or whatever it was, right? So this is how things work. So what you have to do is you have to try things out on your own, right? So how did I come to this? Wherever I am, like let's say input box, right? Anything which is blue in here, that's a system function. So you come in here and you say F1, and basically it is going to show you help on that function which you have selected. So there are tons of things in here. You could look into it, right? You don't be overwhelmed. Don't be scared of like looking into these things. So don't worry about it. They always overkill it by giving you a lot of information. Many times while learning VBScript, if you do like the basic things just to get your job done, that's more than enough for you. All right? Okay, no problem. Very good so far. We are learning things. Right, so let's continue. So this was function, a regular function, user-defined function. Now we could take it to the next step, which is what if I want to create a function which takes input parameter, right? Okay, let's see input parameter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a function again. So I say function, and I will say. What did I name this function? I call this as calculate income, right? I will say calculate income for this period. Let's say, okay. So calculate income for this period, and I will pass that, right? Let's say I will pass in here hours, right? Hours. So the thing which I'm passing is number of hours is what I am passing into it, right? So notice how I did it. This part was as before. To this I added this parenthesis and I said that okay, for this function to work I will pass the number of hours. So rather than hard coding it here, right, and having like 4 lines, right, having these 4 lines, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use 1 line. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say that print what my income, or not my, our income for this many hours is okay, ampersand. So what together we make was for 1 hour. Together we make was for 1 hour, right? So to this I will multiply the number of hours we will pass from outside. We might pass like 2000, so that will be my annual income. I might pass like 160, that will be my monthly. So whatever I would pass, that's the number of hours, right? So I can multiply this by number of hours, right? Number of hours. Now let's see how this function is working. So here just for our learning purpose, I will say that print which function is calculating this value. Calculate income for this period, right? So calculate income for this period function is calculating this value, is calculating this value. Okay, very good. This is just for our purpose, so that when we look into that print window, we know that which one. Okay, we have written a function. Okay, what function we have written? This is a function which takes a input parameter. So it is taking one argument, as they also say, or input parameter. Okay, we call this function. Now we wrote this function. How are we going to call this function? We are going to call this function from here. So what I will do now is I will just comment that this function I will not call that. So which function I'm going to call? I'm going to call the next one, and the next function was or this function was, rather than typing it, I'm just gonna copy this and I will call this function. Right now, notice when I call this function, now I just did a space, right, and it is saying number of hours. So it is expecting me to pass that number of hours, because now this function will not work if I just call it by its name. I have to pass the number of hours. Now, number of hours, let's say if I pass how many hours I want to find out, like let's say for 40 hours, right? If I do that, then it is going to give me the result. So it is asking me what is my salary, right? Let's say $60, right? And what is my spouse salary? $60, right? And now it had calculated. So it said calculate income for this period function is calculating this value, and our income for this many hours is $4,800, right? So because we passed the number, so that 40 was for hourly, right? So we passed that. Now we could just go ahead and then do things in here, right? Like if the number of hours is 1, so I can extend this function further, right? How can I extend the function further? I can just do things like if, right? If what? If the number of hours equal 1, then what I have to say? I have to say this is my rather than saying that this is for this many hours, I can use some better language here. So I can do that. So I can pretty much take this and put it inside here, and say that if it is for number of hours equals 1, then I know that this our income is what for hourly, right? This is an hourly income. Our or let me just do it this way. Our hourly income, right? If it is 1. Now we can continue. Else if, right, what number of hours equal what 8, then I would say this is our daily income, our daily income, right? Now let's see if this works. So what we have introduced here is if, else if, and if, right? Let's see if this thing works, right? So I run it and I do that. Box pops up. Let's say my hour, my enter my salary. So let's say $10, right? Hit OK. My wife makes $10, right? So now let's see what it is doing. Whoa, calculate income for this period is calculating this value, and then there is nothing. There's nothing. So what happened? So first of all, I know that this calculate income for this period, and it has no value. So let me go to calculate income per, period and put a breakpoint there and see what is happening. So if I go in here, right, and what happened? Why did not show anything? Because here calculate income for this period, it calculated 40, right? And in here I did not mention. I just said 1 is fine, 8 is fine, but I did not mention about the 40 part. So what if it was any other number other than 1 and 8, right? I could say else, right? And if I say our income for, rather than saying this many hours, in place of this many, I can put, whatever we are passing from here, right? So I can say our income for number of hours, right? So that many hours, right? So how do I do if I say number of hours, right? So our income for number of hours is, let's say, 40, right? So our income for 40 hours is that, right? It should show that, right? So let's see if it does that. I will bet my last dollar on that it is not going to show you the 40 here. You might have already figured this out, and then you're screaming at me like, hey, you got to not be putting it within the code. Now let's see what happens if I run it. And one or more breakpoints are not positioned on valid lines. These breakpoints remove, replace in the next valid line. Okay, there's some issue going on. Okay, salary is let's say $10, right? My salary, spouse salary, is again $10, right? Let's see what happens. So it came here. The breakpoint was here. Print calculated for this is calculating this value. We are here now. It is showing me my spouse salary per hour as 10. You might be wondering like, hey, what happened to my salary per hour? Why did it not show? Because in my ad watch, I had not added that, right? I had not added that, so that's why it is not showing that. Anyways, let's move on and see what will happen. So I'm just gonna run the code. So I remove the breakpoint and I just execute the code, and it is showing me something here, and it is saying that our income for number of hours is 800, right? So it did not show that 40 hours here. It did not show 40. So how do we do that? Basically what we got to do is we got to come back in here, and rather than putting it like that, I have to end the quotes here, do an ampersand, and come back in here and do that, do an ampersand and that. So that way what happens is, since it is not inside the quotes, so it is going to show me basically whatever is the number of hours, right? Okay, so and the number of hours, where are the number of hours? While calling this, I set 40. So it is going to calculate for 40 hours, right? All the time, this program is going to calculate for 40 hours. Now, you might, whoa, there's something wrong here. It says the test run cannot continue due to a syntax error. Notice syntax error, and it says that print our income for that and that and that. There's something wrong in here, right? So let's go take a look into that line and see what is happening. So that's that. So our income for and number of hours. Okay, here is the deal. So this should be inside, right? So only this one, number of hours is the value which I want to read, right? So I fixed that. Before I had this hours also in here. I did not know what that hours was, right? Okay, so we run that, we do that. So come back. Now the error is gone. Let's say I make $25. My spouse make $25 an hour. Let's see what happens. So now it is saying that our income for 40 hours is 2,000. Now you might say, where did it get that 40 hours? That's because we had here, while calling that function, we said 40. Now if I do a 1, it will calculate for 1. If I do run that, this is $100, right? Is my income per hour. Wife also makes $100 per hour. So together, our hourly income is 200, right? So now you know that how to create a function which is not only single or no parameters, no nothing in here. And now we take a function. We have created a function which takes more than one, or it takes one parameter, and then based on the parameter, it is also giving you a customized message, right? Which is, if the number of hours is 1, then our hourly income. If the number of hours is 8, then it is our daily income. We can keep doing this, right? Usually what you calculate it for 40, then that is going to be our weekly, right? Weekly. And if it is going to be likewise, I mean, if you could go else if, right? If this is 160, that is going to be monthly. And if it is going to be 2,000 monthly, and if we do that and say that it is 2,000, then it is going to be our annual this is what our daily I mean, I should have said our daily income and all that, right? Income here also, our weekly income and our monthly income, and finally our annual or yearly income, right? Okay, my program looks good now. One thing which I should also do here is, how about if I take this also as a value from the input box? Can I do that? Why not, right? Let's try it out. So this value, rather than this value coming from hard coding, I would put it into from an input box, right? So I will, before that, I'm just gonna say dim a variable, right? So dim number of hours, right? Income for number of hours, let's say, or number of hours worked. Number of hours worked is a variable, right? So this, I need to get the value of this number of hours worked from an input box. So how do I do that? Input box, and I will in the in the prompt I would say, please enter the number of hours to calculate your income, potential income, whatever, right? Okay, I'm not going to do the title. Okay, so now that I capture that here, that is something which I have to I have to pass here, right? Not 1, but that's what I have to pass. So if you see here, now it is getting kind of like little advanced. Now you are not only calling a function, but while calling a function, you are passing a parameter, and that parameter is actually gathering information from another function input box. So now you're talking, all right? I mean, you're talking about like little not so advanced, but it requires you to like practicing a little bit, put your mind and a little more effort into understanding this piece of code and see how it is working. Okay, now I should not forget that I have to save things just in case. Now I will run. So this time I'll have 3 input boxes popping up. The first one will be asking me for my salary. Let's say my salary per hour is $35, right? So that's my salary. Let's say this enter your spouse salary. My spouse salary is, let's say, $25, right? Okay. Now it says that, okay, let's say if I'm making $35, if my spouse is making $25, let's say I want to find out like if we had worked for doesn't matter, half a year. Half a year is don't know, maybe 1,000 hours. So I could pretty much put any number here. Let's say if I put 1,000 and do that, what it is going to do, it did calculated that, and then it is coming back and it is telling me that calculate income for this period function is being calculated, and this was from the previous one. I guess this 200 is from the previous one. So this is what it is. Our income for 1,000 hours is $60,000. Right? So now I can go ahead and enter any number. Now, do you see the power when we started this script? Let's go with a realistic number like 25 is what I make. Let's say 25 is what my wife makes, right? So $50 per hour, right? And we want to calculate for 1 full year, right? Which is 2,000 hours. Now let's see for 1 full year. How much do we make? So we make 100,000. Our annual income is 100,000. Now, if you calculate, I said 25 and I said spouse is 25. That's $50 per hour, right? And multiply that by 2,000 hours. That's for the annual income. So that's like 100,000. So this has become pretty powerful program right now, right? So what we have done is we pretty much learned everything in this program. We have learned declaring variables. We have learned assigning some value, hard coding some values into the variables, and then we talked about using the input boxes in there. When we use the input boxes, I told you that without converting that into a double or into an integer, it would just concatenate. So we looked into that. We went into the debugging. We looked into that. Then we wrote our first function. And I showed you everything as how to write that function. Then I went in there and I showed you some of the built-in functions. I gave you the example of input box, how input box work. I showed you as how to go and look for some help in VBScripting by hitting F1 when you're sitting on top of any word. You could do an F1 and then it'll give you that. Then I showed you this function with 1 argument. Then I kind of like improvised that a little bit by using if statements in there. So we did quite a bit in this video, right? It would be like a complete video when it comes to like learning the basics of VBScripting. So I want you to watch this video again and again, at least a couple of times. Try different things, challenge yourself, try different things, right? And if you like what you're seeing here, then I would say you can go ahead, take a look into our courses. We are TrainingRite.com. If you're already a student of this course, then you don't have to worry about you already know as where to go and what to watch and all that. But if you're thinking of becoming a student, then we would encourage you to take a look into this TrainingRite.com. If it comes up. In there are links for free videos. You could go and take a look into some free videos. You could go and take a look into our different courses, what kind of courses we are offering right now. So If anything generates any interest in you, then talk to us. We have our email listed there, which is sales@trainingrite.com, or you could also call us. We have our phone number also listed there. There it is. I have a very slow internet connection for whatever reason, so that's why it took a little while for this site to pop up. This is what I was talking about, some free videos on QTP, on Selenium. If you're a manual tester, just go and take a look into some of the videos which I have there. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us in this video, and we're looking forward to seeing you on another video or in our class. Thank you again. Be good.